Hey friends, I made one video recently about why I thought that the author of the Gospel of Matthew thought that Jesus had a half-brother named James, and that James and Jesus shared the same mother, Mary. Then I made a second video where I was primarily responding to Catholic YouTuber Kyle Whittington. However, I was also responding to Jimmy Akin, and Jimmy Akin left a comment on that video. Both Jimmy and user Photon introduced me to a new idea, the idea that James the Just was not one of the apostles. In this video, I wanted to explore the number of Jameses in the New Testament and see what kind of impact that might have on my theory. Let's begin. All right. Let me begin my investigation by going right to the source. If I write a code that hacks into the Vatican website and scans the entire New Testament for any mention of James the Less, James the son of Alphaeus, James the son of Mary, James the brother of the Lord, and... just kidding. I grabbed a PDF of the New Testament and I Control F for James. Turns out that the word James appears 45 times in the New Testament. I created a Google Sheet with all of the mentions of James, and I count 40 unique mentions. Let's start naming some of the unique titles of James, and not worry yet about which title goes with who. I see James being accounted for in a ton of different ways, so let's look at this data. Nobody seems to think that each mention is a brand new James, so let's look through this data and see which Jameses we can't combine. Well, a good place to start seems like it would be Matthew chapter 10, where Matthew lists the 12 disciples. The names of the 12 apostles are these. First, Simon, who's called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew, the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the Cananean, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. Okay, good. So the floor is that we have at least two Jameses, James, the son of Zebedee, and James, the son of Alphaeus, respectively. Also, Matthew chapter 10 gives us the information that James and John are both sons of Zebedee, or the sons of thunder, the title that they're given in Mark chapter 3, verse 17, and they seem to go everywhere together. Mark 5:37 reads, "He suffered no man to follow him save Peter and James and John the brother of James." Mark chapter 10, verse 35 reads, "And James and John the sons of Zebedee come unto him, saying, Master, we would that thou shouldest do for us whatsoever we shall desire." Luke chapter 5 verse 10 reads, "And so was also James and John the sons of Zebedee, which were partners with Simon. And Jesus said unto Simon, Fear not," etc. Notably, both James the son of Alphaeus and James the son of Zebedee are among the 12 main disciples. They're also included in a list in Acts of the Apostles. More often than not, though, the New Testament simply says James and John, without specifying which James we're talking about. Examples of this non-specificity can be found in, for instance, Mark chapter 13, verse 3. "And he sat upon the Mount of Olives over against the temple. Peter and James and John and Andrew asked him privately." Also, Luke chapter 9, verse 28. "And it came to pass, about 8 days after these sayings, he took Peter and John and James and went up into a mountain to pray." I think it's safe to assume that when the authors of the gospel write about James and John, they're talking about the sons of Zebedee, not James, son of Alphaeus, and John, son of Zebedee. When I did this first pass, the largest category was unknown because a lot of the mentions of James were James and John. It doesn't technically say that it's James, son of Zebedee, but I do think it's fair to assign all of these as a son of Zebedee. Let's see what that cleaned up data looks like. Look at that. We've reduced the unknowns from 42.5 down to 7.9. Awesome. So we have a full 50% of the mentions of James in the New Testament being about James, son of Zebedee, brother of John. I'm not super interested in the story of James, son of Zebedee, at least not for this video. So I'm going to remove all of the mentions of the son of thunder, and instead I'm only going to focus on the non-James, son of Zebedee Jameses. So these would be James, son of Alphaeus, James, son of Mary, James, brother of Jude, James, brother of the Lord. Let's go through the list of the remaining titles and see which other ones we can't combine. Let's take a look at Matthew chapter 13, verse 55. Isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't his mother's name Mary? And aren't his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? Okay, sweet. So we can combine James, the brother of Jude, with James, the brother of the Lord. Let's see if we can combine that with James, the son of Mary. Mark chapter 15, verse 40. Some women were watching from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James the younger, James the less, and Joseph, and Salome. Okay, so we know that the same James, the brother of the Lord, also has a brother named Joseph. So it seems like we can combine James, the brother of the Lord, with James, the brother of Jude, James, the brother of Joseph, and James, the son of Mary. Let's see what that cleaned up data looks like. All right. So now we're at James, the son of Alphaeus, James, the brother of Jesus, which again is combined with the brothers of Jude and the sons of Mary, not the brothers of John, an unknown. Well, what do I mean when I'm categorizing a James as just not the brothers of John? Well, in Acts of the Apostles, it's mentioned that Herod seizes Peter and James, the brother of John. Herod then kills James, the brother of John. This has to be John, son of Zebedee. And then immediately after that, Peter escapes from jail and he runs off to meet up with James. No descriptor is given outside the name James. However, James, the son of Alphaeus, is the only other James mentioned in Acts of the Apostles besides James, the brother of John. For that reason, I feel justified in changing all of the James, not the brother of John, to being James, the son of Alphaeus. But we can still use Acts for more. Later in Acts, Paul meets up with James, who presumably is James, the son of Alphaeus still. It doesn't actually give a descriptor. But then in Galatians, Paul mentions meeting James, the brother of the Lord. So if Paul was referring to James, the son of Alphaeus, as James, the brother of the Lord, then that makes James, the son of Alphaeus, the same James as James the less, James, the son of Mary, James, the son of Alphaeus, James, the brother of the Lord, the brother of Judas, Joseph, and Simon. But wait, that collapses all of the Jameses in the New Testament to only two Jameses. You know, James the greater and James the less. James, the son of Zebedee, and James, the son of Alphaeus. But where's James the Just? It turns out that James the Just is not a name that's mentioned anywhere in the New Testament. Just like James the Greater. James the Greater kind of became a later title for James, the son of Zebedee, because we were calling James, the son of Alphaeus, James the Less. So, James the Greater works out. And James the Just likewise doesn't appear in the New Testament. However, James the Just is a title given to some James in the early Christian writings. Jerome describes in his work, De Viris Illustribus, that James, the brother of the Lord, is the same James as James, the son of Alphaeus, and Mary of Cleophas. Jerome says, James, who is called a brother of the Lord, surnamed the Just, the son of Joseph by another wife, as some think, but as appears to me, the son of Mary, sister of the mother, our Lord Mary of Cleophas, of whom John makes mention in his book, referring there to John chapter 9. So Jerome is almost on my side. Jerome thinks that they're all the same person. He just thinks that that person cannot be a actual son of Mary, because Mary, as far as Jerome is concerned, is a perpetual virgin. And what's funny is that Jerome actually assumes that James is a perpetual virgin too. So is James the son of Alphaeus the same as James the Just, James the son of Mary, James the brother of the Lord, the James who goes on to be the first bishop of Jerusalem? Well, I think so, and St. Jerome thinks so. So what are the arguments for the opposite? What is the argument for James the son of Alphaeus not being the same James as James the Just? Well, there's the argument from the brother of Matthew. What do I mean by that? Well, in Mark chapter 2, verse 14, Matthew, called Levi at the time, is identified as a son of Alphaeus. Mark chapter 2, verse 14 reads, as he walked along, he saw Levi, another name for Matthew, son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax collector's booth. Follow me, Jesus told him, and Levi got up and followed him. So We know that James is the son of Alphaeus. And we also know that Matthew is the son of Alphaeus. But never in the New Testament is James referred to as the brother of Matthew. Matthew's brothers are Jesus, Simon, Joseph, and Jude. Therefore, if James is a brother of Matthew and then another James is not the brother of Matthew, then we have to be talking about two different James. So therefore, James the son of Alphaeus is not James the son of Mary. James the son of Alphaeus is Matthew's brother. James the son of Mary is Jesus' brother. Well, I don't buy it for a few reasons. First of all, James and Matthew are never called brothers in the text. Yeah, James and Matthew are never called brothers in the text. Maybe because there's only one James and they're not brothers. The word adelphos in Greek literally means womb sharer. And so it was totally normal to refer to people you were only half siblings with as your brothers if you shared a mother, and then just kinsperson or something like that if you shared a father but not a mother with them. Sometimes the same word was used, but not always. So the fact that that word womb sharer was used to describe the relationship between James and Jesus, but not between James and Matthew, isn't totally surprising if we think that James and Jesus had the same mother, but James and Matthew did not. Maybe James and Matthew really were half-siblings by today's standards, but back then they wouldn't have described themselves as brothers like the way that James and Jesus would. It seems totally plausible to me that they really did share the same father, Alphaeus. I suppose it's also possible that they had two different fathers with the same name, but I'm kind of using that exact same argument to say that there shouldn't be two different Jameses where we can just argue that there's one. So it seems more plausible to me to say that James and Matthew were half-siblings. I could be wrong. The second argument, one that I am more sympathetic to, is that nowhere in the text does it actually state that James, the son of Alphaeus, is James, who is the brother of the Lord, the son of Mary, the just, the bishop of Jerusalem, etc. I argued, and St. Jerome stole my idea, that because the Acts of the Apostles mentions James the Greater and James, the son of Alphaeus, at the beginning, then James the Greater is killed, and then it keeps on talking about James, we must be talking about James the son of Alphaeus. But that doesn't necessarily hold. The text never says this is the same James that we were talking about before, so it would be a little weird in my opinion, but not impossible, that they did change the James that they were talking about without ever actually telling us that they were changing which James they were talking about. So at the end of all of this, where am I? Well, I agree with Jerome that there's really only two Jameses that are being described in the New Testament. Whenever we talk about James, the son of Zebedee, the son of thunder, or the brother of John, we're talking about James the Greater, even though James the Greater is never a title used in the New Testament. Whenever we're talking about James, the brother of Jesus, the brother of the Lord, the brother of Jude, the brothers of Simon and Joseph, the son of Mary, that is referring to James the Less. And James the Less is used only one time in the New Testament. Then later Christian tradition talks about James the Just, and they're referring to James the Less when they're talking about James the Just. I disagree with Jerome in other places. Jerome holds to the perpetual virginity of Mary, so he argues that James is the son of Mary, the sister of Mary. I don't think that's right, because I don't think that we have any good reason to say that Clopas or Cleophas is the same person as James's father, Alphaeus. But Jerome wants to make that claim that Alphaeus is Clopas. And he does that specifically so that he can maintain the virginity of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Again, I don't have to maintain the virginity of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And so I think it's more parsimonious to say that Mary didn't have a sister named Mary and that James and Jesus are brothers, like it says in the text. So what does this do to my argument that James, the brother of Jesus, really is the half-brother of Jesus? To be honest, I don't think it does a whole lot. James, the brother of the Lord, is the James that we were talking about this whole time, regardless of whether or not I think that he's the son of Alphaeus. The only impact that it has on my argument at all is whether or not Alphaeus is the same person as Clopas. If James, the brother of the Lord, is not the son of Alphaeus, then I don't care whether or not Clopas and Alphaeus are the same person. If James, the brother of our Lord, the son of Mary, is still the same person, then I just don't know who his father was. Maybe his father was Joseph. Maybe he's a blood brother, Jesus being the son of Joseph, whatever. You get my idea. But it doesn't really impact my argument about James being the brother of our Lord. Anyway, I thought it was just a fun exercise to look at the two different positions, whether James, the son of Alphaeus, is the same James as the rest of the Jameses. Not talking about James the Greater. To be honest, I'm not any more certain or any less certain about anything now. In fact, if anything, I'm less certain because I was kind of just certain, I never really thought about it, that there was only two Jameses being discussed in the entire New Testament. Now I think, yeah, maybe there's three, maybe. But if there is a third, the only thing that we know about him is that he was an apostle and that his father's name was Alphaeus, and otherwise we know nothing about him. Everything else that we thought that we knew was actually about James the Just, who turns out was not an apostle, but somehow became a massive leader within the church, which again, seems unlikely to me. It seems more parsimonious that they are the same person. But again, I don't know any of this with any kind of certainty. I'm still pretty confused. So, Catholics, what do you think? It seems like most Catholics think that there's only two Jameses, but some prominent Catholics like Jimmy think there's three. Photon thinks that there might be three as well, although I don't think he's certain on that. But what do you think? Do you think it matters? Let me know in the comment section down below. And until next time. Just like James the Greater doesn't actually appear in the New Testament, it's always just James